You think I'm mad, but I'm not. Nervous, yes, but not mad. In fact, my nervousness sharpened my senses, especially my hearing. I could hear everything, even the smallest sounds, both in this world and beyond. And that's why I must tell you what really happened. I lived with an old man. I loved him. He never harmed me, and I didn't want his money. It was his eye, his terrible, pale, vulture-like eye that bothered me. Whenever he looked at me, it felt like it was piercing through my soul. That's when I decided I had to get rid of the eye forever. For a whole week, every night at midnight, I'd sneak into his room. I moved slowly, ever so carefully, so that I wouldn't wake him. I watched him sleep. Every night I opened the door just enough to slip my head in, and each night his eye was closed. I couldn't harm him when the eye was closed because it wasn't him that scared me. It was the eye. But on the 8th night, something changed. I was more confident, more careful than ever. As I slowly opened the door, my thumb slipped on the latch, making a noise. The old man woke up, startled, and called out, "Who's there?" I stood frozen, barely breathing, and waited for what felt like hours. He didn't lie back down. I knew he was sitting up in bed, scared. I could feel his fear filling the room. Then I heard it. A soft sound, like the ticking of a watch wrapped in cotton. It was the beating of his heart, loud in the stillness of the night. His fear made it beat faster and louder, and it drove me mad. I opened the lantern just a tiny bit, letting a small sliver of light fall on his eye. It was open, wide, staring right at me. That eye, that horrible eye. And the sound of his heart, it pounded louder, louder, until I thought it would burst. I couldn't take it anymore. In a fit of rage, I leaped into the room and pulled the bed over him. The heart kept beating, even as I pressed the bed down. Louder, louder still, but eventually it stopped. The old man was dead, and his eye could bother me no more. I wasn't afraid. I calmly dismembered the body, cutting off his head, arms, and legs, and hid the pieces under the floorboards. I replaced the boards so neatly that no one could ever tell what I had done. Just as I finished, there was a knock at the door. It was the police. A neighbor had heard a scream and they came to check. I smiled, for what did I have to fear? I welcomed them in, even took them to the old man's room. I told them he was away and invited them to sit and chat. We sat there, right above where I had hidden the body. I was calm at first, but then I started hearing it again, the beating of the old man's heart, faint but growing louder. It wouldn't stop. Thump, thump, thump. The sound grew louder and louder until I could barely think. The police didn't seem to hear it, but I couldn't take it anymore. The noise filled my head, pounding in my ears. I couldn't stand it. I jumped up and screamed, "It's the beating of his hideous heart!" And I confessed everything.